Brother Rice!
A warrior's prayer. Lord, grant me the strength to play to the utmost of my ability. The courage to stand tall in times of difficulty and disappointment. The humility to celebrate victory with graciousness and class. The discipline to remember the importance of teamwork. And the wisdom to know that our greatest asset is our belief that we can do it.
The Brother Rice 50th Anniversary 1-Hour Special is brought to you by Motor City Harley-Davidson, PNC Bank, Battery Giant, Madonna University, American House, and the Suburban Collection. Good evening, and welcome to Brother Rice High School, and welcome to a retrospective unlike anything that's been done before. It's the 50th Anniversary celebration of Brother Rice. I am your host, Lauren Plant. Over the course of the next hour, you're going to get an unprecedented inside look as to why this cherished institution has not just survived, but thrived. Not only will you understand the athletic and academic success stories, but the compassionate commitment that teachers, coaches, former students, and student athletes have for their beloved alma mater. We take a nostalgic look back and an exciting gaze forward. This program kicks off a week-long series of events to commemorate 5 decades of dedication, and it all culminates in the Warrior Classic, the historic 50th regular season matchup on the gridiron between Detroit Catholic Central and Brother Rice, the 500th football game in Brother Rice history. And that's where we begin. It's been a half-century of classics, the Shamrocks squaring off against the Warriors, a rivalry for the ages.
I've played in state championship games, played in playoff games. There's nothing like playing against Catholic Central.
I don't even have to talk to my kids and say, you gotta be ready, they're gonna be ready.
Couldn't sleep, you couldn't eat very well, you know, I mean, it's all about the Boys Bowl. I mean, it was the game.
It was the biggest game of the year. 10 to 15,000 people.
Going from our bus through the Catholic Central crowd, I remember it was like going through the gauntlet, you know, because and today, you know, you would never do that, but back then it was like, you know, you knew you were in for a fight.
Let's make it a rainy, drizzly day. Let me follow Coach Mack out, and I want Al Fracassa on the sideline. That's as close to heaven as I'm ever going to get here on earth. I'm telling you that right now.
If you look across the country for great rivalries in any sport, football included, I think Brother Rice CC would measure up to any of them.
The roots of the Boys Bowl dates back to the 1940s, when Father Flanagan's Boys Town teams would come to Detroit from Nebraska to play Catholic Central at Briggs Stadium. By the late 50s, CC made it a local game that featured the likes of UAD, Notre Dame Prep, and Detroit Cathedral. That tradition evolved to Brother Rice in 1967. Now, although the game has been played at different venues over the years, Hamtramck's Keyworth Stadium one of them, the majority of these contests played out in Pontiac, Wisner Stadium.
It always seemed like it was a gorgeous sunny day, kind of the white backdrop of the stadium, and you walk out of the tunnel or you walk out and come around and you just see one side nothing but blue and one side nothing but black and orange, and it really set the tone.
I remember going as a little kid, you know, just going to the Catholic Central games at Wisner Stadium, and you know, I'd bring my little friends and we'd go to the game, and it was just the greatest time of my life, you know, just I couldn't wait to put on an orange helmet and, you know, see those guys in blue, and it's like, wow, this is amazing, this is magical, this is what it's all about.
The stands were packed, and there were 4 rows of people standing around the sidelines. It was hard to move and communicate. And I can't tell you, see, I got goose pimples.
The locker rooms are right by each other. So one team's facing the other team with 5 yards separating them and maybe 2 yards separating the coaches. So it's a pretty big feeling of intensity.
Once you line up against the guy across from you and the ball gets snapped, you don't think about that other stuff. You know, you're thinking about defeating the man across from you for 5 or 6 seconds until the whistle blows.
In the 53-game history of the rivalry, Catholic Central only holds a 2-game winning advantage, and just 61 points separate the two rivals from it being a statistical dead heat.
I always remember Coach Fracassa talking about playing Catholic Central, and he'd say, boy, they got that linebacker number 55, and he'd say, you know, that guy's going to be gone next year. And he said the guy was never gone. It was just a different face with that same number. So every time you played Catholic Central, you knew what you were going to get. I mean, they were always strong, and they always had another guy that was just waiting the next year to take that spot.
Prior to the playoffs being introduced in 1975, the game oftentimes meant the season.
Even to this day, I have a hard time, you know, using the C in the alphabet because it's foreign to me. You knew that they were coming at you with the same intensity that we were going after them with. And so while we didn't have a playoff system with it, CC every year was our state championship game.
Especially in the early days, it was an event.
I remember those Wisner games with the floats going around the track, and it was standing room only. It was freezing cold, and you didn't care. I mean, you had your shirt off, screaming your head off for Brother Rice and the Warrior chants that we used to do back in the day.
Things ramped up in 1976. Catholic Central hired former Wayne State star, 28-year-old Tom Mack. Curious, Al Fracassa quickly discovered CC had a strong new leader.
He split his helmet one time because I knew the custodian at Wayne State. And I says, what about this guy, Tom Mack? He says he was a tough defensive back. Well, that's his kids are tough because he's tough, and they get that from him.
The Brother Rice Catholic Central rivalry has produced a whole host of games where the endings seemed as if they could have been penned by a Hollywood screenwriter. 1977, led by the termite defense, nobody thought they'd really do anything before the season started, coach included.
He's always very, especially in the beginning of the season, pretty up. And he was talking to the reporter, and he just said, I'd like to give you some bright spots, but I don't really know where to go with this team. He goes, I don't think we're going to be very good.
CC led late in the game 6-0, and in the biggest game of the year, a little-used receiver, Mike Asensio, who only had a few catches all year, made a game-saving play.
The state championship wouldn't have never happened without that play. So when you hear Coach Fracassa say, play every play like it's your last play, play every play like you're never going to play again, apparently, I think Mike Asensio did that.
In 1983, Brother Rice was coming off their worst season in 20 years, but the unranked Warriors were undefeated heading into state-ranked CC. The game went into overtime. CC managed a field goal. Rice drove down the field, and instead of opting for the field goal on 4th and 1, Mel Farr Jr. played hero.
He was a 230-pound running back, and he never ran more than 15 or 20 yards. He was one of those 4 to 5, 6 yards guy. He made All-State doing that. Oh boy, that was a good game.
Then there's 1987, a year in which Catholic Central and Brother Rice met 3 times, once in the Boys Bowl, once for the Catholic League title, and after Rice found themselves in the state semifinals, their opponent would be CC. The only time these two teams have met in the postseason. You can only imagine the anticipation.
I remember
Channel 7, Channel 4, Channel 2, all the reporters were at practice. And you know, one night they would do a feature on Brother Rice, and then the next night they'd say, don't worry, we're going to be over at CC the next day. And I remember that it was the neatest thing too, because it was late November, and I remember the day before the game we kind of had a little bit of snow.
The issue at hand was whoever won that game was going to play in the state championship, and it was going to be in the Dome. And so the thing was, we had this fantastic tailback, Jason Wolf, who could run really good on AstroTurf. And the problem was, and this is, we're all going to blame the weather on this one, the ground was frozen. And so he was neutralized, and he essentially got injured in the game.
In an historic battle, Catholic Central won 14-9.
There's a lot of plays you wish you could have back, or you wish you could do over. And you know, and it's funny, you know, I think back, and there's games obviously then in college that I played, and then even after college, but nothing still stings, just quite like that loss to CC. And you know, the guys that I know now from CC never let you forget it.
During the mid-90s, 3 straight years the Boys Bowl outcome was determined on the final play. In 1997, it appeared Rice would escape with a 12-11 win. With time running out, the Shamrocks chugged a desperation pass that sailed into the sidelines. Game over? Not quite. A pass interference call gave Catholic Central one last crack.
I remember the ball 10 feet above the receiver's head at least, and we started celebrating until someone pointed out the flag.
A knuckleballer into the swirling wind sealed victory for CC.
The tears were flowing. You know, it was as a kid, that's what you, as a sophomore in high school, that's really your life, you know, and you lose in the last play of the game. It was quite emotional.
In 2004, it was Mark's brother's turn to return the favor at Keyworth Stadium, and with time winding down, junior John Goebel snatched victory from the jaws of defeat. Brother Rice 14, Catholic Central 10.
I remember a lot of emotions coming over me because my brother never beat CC, and I always just watched my brother's teams like they were, you know, the NFL. You know, I always looked up to them so much, and it meant so much that we were able to win.
The latest fantastic finish, 2008. After Catholic Central built a 24-10 fourth quarter lead, a comeback seemed impossible. But the Warriors stormed back with touchdowns by Cavante Martin-Manley and Mark Mikowski. The Rice defense held. Ryan Kelly had already launched a school record 42-yard kick earlier in the game. He was asked to do it again, only this time from 50 yards.
We never kicked a 50-yard field goal ever. We just took a chance and then we won. Just made it over the bar.
I'm going to remember this game as long as I live. And I think that you will too, won't you?
Yes, sir.
Never forget this game.
When we come back, we delve into the history behind Brother Rice High School. You'll hear from those who were there at the beginning and how the value of a Rice education remains unchanged. The Brother Rice 50th anniversary celebration continues in just a few minutes.